This is the extended SWOPS tutorial for SwapMyMood. SWOPS is a 5-step tool used to help with problem solving. It can be used by itself or along with the emotion cycle, a tool used to help with emotion regulation. Either way, SWOPS can be helpful when used before, during, and after problem situations. Step 1 is stop. Is there a problem? The first step is to recognize that a problem exists, even if you don't know exactly what the problem is, and to tell yourself to stop and think about it. This is called a stop moment. Step 2 is what is the problem? Before you can solve a problem, it helps to understand what the problem is and why it is a problem for you. Step 3 is options. In this step, it is important to brainstorm and come up with as many alternative solutions to the problem as possible. There's no need to judge the solutions at this point. Rather, just focus on listing as many different solutions as possible. Step 4 is to pick and plan. In this step, you will go through each item on the list you made in Step 3 and pick the ones that you think will work best. Think about what will get you the most satisfactory outcome and consider whether the benefits outweigh any costs. Step 5 is satisfied. In this step, you ask yourself if you are satisfied with your plan. If you are, you carry out your plan. Then afterwards, ask yourself, how did it go? Am I satisfied, or is further action needed in solving the problem? So let's practice. Let's say I'm having a stop moment. The first step in problem solving is recognizing there is a problem to solve. This requires a stop moment. When you say to yourself, stop, is there a problem? Stopping also allows us to think about how to solve the problem rather than launching right into action. Anytime you are having a stop moment, you can open SwapMyMood and tap SWOPS. There are a number of situations that can indicate you are having a stop moment, such as anytime you need to make a decision, anytime you need to plan ahead, anytime you need to deal with something unexpected, something goes wrong, you are overwhelmed, confused, or don't know what to do, you experience distress, like getting upset, anxious, or angry, or even sad, or just have a very strong, intense emotion, and anytime you cause distress or harm to others. Sometimes when problems occur, we can have trouble thinking. It may help to use a few strategies to calm your mind and body before trying to solve a problem. If this sounds like a good idea to you, you can enter a few strategies on this screen that you think would be helpful to be reminded of during a stop moment. You don't have to do this every time you SWOPS. Once you enter these strategies here, they will appear on the screen the next time you use the app. For example, I might enter deep breathing. And also, look at a picture of my dog. You can see now that both of those strategies have been added to the list. So if I go back and then re-enter, they are listed. When you're ready to go to the next step, just tap SWOPS. In this step, you ask yourself, what's the problem? And should you try to solve it? Here, you also have the option to do an emotion cycle to understand all parts of the problem. For now, we will use SWOPS without the emotion cycle. Once we complete the SWOPS, we will go back through the same situation again and add the emotion cycle to show how they can be used together. Let's say I got into my car to go to work this morning, but my car wouldn't start. So I recognized something was wrong and unexpected, and I stopped. My problem is my car won't start. Options. In this step, the goal is to brainstorm and list as many different ways to solve the problem as possible. Remember not to spend time or energy on judging ideas just yet. Enter anything that comes to mind. Call an Uber. Ask a friend for a ride. Call out sick. So in this case, I wouldn't go to work at all. And if I'm feeling particularly upset, I might think, I just want to set the car on fire. Once I've come up with all of the options I can think of, I'm ready to move to the next step. Pick and plan. Now I will think about which steps get me the most satisfactory outcome, and then pick the steps I will take by removing steps that may not be helpful. I can also consider whether each option is worth the cost, if there is a cost involved. Here, I'm going to decide that setting my car on fire is really not the best option. Nor is calling out sick. I think I'll leave it in this order so that I ask a friend for a ride first and then call an Uber as a backup. If I wanted to change the order though, I could tap and switch the order. The last step is to consider whether I'm satisfied with my plan. Here, it's important to consider the big picture and whether I have met my needs or will meet my needs and feel confident that I chose the solutions that are best for me and planned actions that are in line with my goals and values. If I'm not satisfied, I can hit the back button and repeat the steps. Or I can just select no, and that will take me back to step 3 to do some more brainstorming. If I'm not sure if I'm fully satisfied, perhaps I want to carry out my plan before deciding, I can select maybe or I don't know yet. This will give me the option to be reminded to come back and rate this answer later. And if I am satisfied, I can select yes and select the reasons why, then hit save, and that's SWOPS. Now let's take a look at the same problem and see how the emotion cycle might be helpful to use along with SWOPS. I'm going to find this problem by looking in my saved SWOPS, and I see here my car won't start. I'll click the pencil icon to edit, and this will take me back to what's the problem. Previously I described the problem, but I didn't really consider how the problem affected me. If I felt a lot of stress and anxiety over the situation, I could still be upset when I get to work, and if the level of distress I feel is still high when I arrive, I might not have a great day. And my response to other problems that arise could be fueled by those emotions, making me less likely to notice and respond to new stop moments. By choosing the emotion cycle, I can think about all parts of the problem. I can think about the trigger and think about what happened right before I started feeling the way that I was feeling. My car broke down, that's a trigger. It also triggers a feeling of loss of control. Once I've identified the triggers, I can think about whether there are any strategies I can use to help lessen their effect on me. After giving it some thought, I think doing something I enjoy could be a helpful distraction. Once I've entered the trigger or triggers, then I can think about the emotions I'm feeling. But let's say I want to have the app provide some suggestions for identifying parts of the emotional cycle and strategies. I can go into the settings to enable this support. Now when I enter the emotion I am feeling, I can review a list of common emotions to help me identify how I am feeling. If I look at the list and don't see the emotion I want to enter, I can type it in. This will add it to the list. I might also be feeling worried. Once I've identified my emotions, I can think about whether any strategies could be helpful to lessen the intensity of my emotion. In this case, I'll choose one from the list. The parts of the emotional cycle that I've already completed now have yellow rings around them. You don't have to complete all parts of the emotional cycle, and you can complete them in any order. I'll do sensations next. Emotions are usually associated with a feeling or a sensation in the body. In this case, I might notice that I'm breathing shallowly, so I'll click on the chest and pick breathing shallowly. And then I'll select a strategy to address this sensation. I'll choose breathe deeply. When I've finished entering the sensations, I can then try to notice my thoughts. One thought I might have is that this always happens. I might also think I'll never be able to afford the repairs. And then I can enter a strategy. I'll choose, if the thought is not helpful, let it go. For the behavior section, I can list either behaviors I'm doing or that I'm urged to do. For example, I might want to go back to bed. I might also think about throwing my keys or screaming. Then I can choose a strategy for this behavior. I'll choose ask myself if this behavior is helpful. When I'm ready, I can hit review, and then I can take a look at all of the different parts of the emotional cycle that I've identified, as well as the strategies I've chosen. Then I can hit save. And because I did this emotional cycle as part of a SWOPS, it will take me back to the What's the Problem screen. From here, I can advance to the next step, which is options. You can see here that the strategies I selected as part of the emotional cycle are already listed. I can also give some thought to other options that will support solving the problem, my car won't start. When I'm ready, I can advance to the next step. I can rearrange the order of my plan by tapping and dragging each option. I can also hit the trash can icon to remove an option. If there are items in my plan that I want to remember to do in the future, I can use the Add to My Calendar feature to go ahead and add those items to my calendar and set reminders now. When I'm happy with the order of my plan, then I again go to the Are You Satisfied screen. In this case, I think I am satisfied. I came up with a plan that addressed my needs and I solved the problem. From here, I can save my swaps. And that's how to SWOPS in SwapMyMood.